live at the Academy. Today we are covering, continuing our course, Economics 101, Economic Systems. And today's topic in economic systems is personal finance. Personal finance. And I have a couple of guests with me. Let's see if my class is back. Where's everybody at?
Still on break. Start coming in.
Yeah.
I know how that goes.
I'll break out and we'll close in 5 seconds. Okay. 4, 3. All right. So I just recently had my students. They were in breakout rooms, and the purpose of the breakout room was to discuss the financial habits of the poor, the financial habits of the middle income class, and the financial habits of the rich. All right? Okay, so everybody's back. All right, so welcome back, class. We have Miss Tesha Gibbs with us.
Hello.
And Ms. Jasmine Ramos.
Hey,
And but before we get to them, right? Can somebody just talk a little bit about, right? So if we had this kind of, so that's I, that's E, that's A, and that's L. First of all, can somebody say what? Oh, can you see it? Can somebody say what I and E represent in your financial statement? Anybody? All right, so you're gonna get graded, so somebody's got to speak on it.
Is the first one income?
Yes, ma'am. Income, and the second one is expenses. All right. So if you have a job, all right, you generate income with a salary, right? And if the money goes straight out that way, what is that financial habit? All right. So the money goes, so you can see it, right? Money goes straight out. What kind of financial habit is that? The money comes in and the money goes straight out to expenses. You don't save anything. Well, no, what's the financial habit? So if you spend all your money all the time and you don't save any, is that the financial habit of the rich? That's correct. That's the financial habit of the poor. And then we also talked about if you have money coming in and you buy liabilities, right, and you buy all these toys, but you don't build up your asset column, what kind of financial habit is that?
Middle class.
Middle class, right? And then the financial habits of the rich, right, is this habit right here, where your money comes in, you start putting your money into assets. That's the financial habits of the rich. Now, as we said before, you can have those financial habits right now. You can start cultivating those financial habits right now. Whether you're making $1,000 a year, $10,000 a year, or $100,000 a year, or $1 million a year, right? You could have the financial habits of the rich, the financial habits of the poor, and the financial habits of the middle income class. All right, so that's the general idea. Let me get this out of the way. Okay. And let's talk to my guests. So maybe I'll start with Miss Ramos, right? Right, of course, right? Because she not only is she an entrepreneur, right, a spiritual entrepreneur, but she's one of my business partners also. Okay, and we've known each other. We've done quite a few of money generating events, and she's a serious entrepreneur. And then to my right, I have Miss Tesha Gibbs, right? And we've done a couple things together also, but I came to know her through her work in financial literacy, financial education. She's involved in the insurance industry, and she's also an ex-Marine. So y'all, y'all watch out right there, right? And both of them are going to share their kind of like experiential. They're both from Buffalo, right? So they're just like y'all, right? They grew up in Buffalo, right? They dealt with the trials and tribulations in Buffalo, and they just want to share that trial and tribulations, right, with the idea that, learn the mistakes that we made, so that maybe you don't have to make those mistakes. Okay, so Ms. Ramos.
All right. So how did I go about becoming an entrepreneur? I would say first passion. Figuring out exactly what it is that speaks to me. Ways that I can just naturally do things without having to force myself or feel like I'm being controlled or imprisoned in some type of way. Ways that I can be free.
So you don't like the idea of being controlled, or
No.
right? So the lifestyle. So we talked about in class, right? That in the last century, the 20th century, that a lot of people would work at Bethlehem Steel, General Motors, and in that world, they were, they weren't happy at work, right? It's hard to be happy at work, shoveling coal and a furnace and stuff like that. But they did that because they were taking care of their family. But in our class, we're talking about that. That's a 20th century concept, right? We're in the 21st century. We're in the world of. Come on, Daryl. All right. Right. But we're in the 21st century, post-pandemic, and we're in the world of a paradigm shift. That's what we're doing here, this paradigm shift. But we've talked about, right, the idea of, in the 21st century, a lot of the Z generation, even the millennials, they want to do what they're good at, right, what they like to do, what might be service to the world or humanity or to the environment, and make money doing it, whether it's just a survival kind of money or lucrative amount of money. So is that are you fitting into that paradigm shift?
Yeah, I mean, in general, the first thing I really went after was the arts, because that's what really affect me. These days I deal with teas. I like tea. Why wouldn't I just make big batches of tea and sell them, especially if they're delicious?
Let me say, they are delicious.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
I like stretching. I'm going to teach a stretch and meditation class. I have a thing called Mass Expo, music, art, spirituality, sexuality, all things that feed people and myself. What's your nutrition, So let's create an event that feeds all the senses.
Okay. So you mentioned create. So why is that significant? Create. Like we talk about create versus compete, right? Some of us are out, old school capitalism is about competition. But I think the language of this new world, right, of this new, this paradigm shift is about creation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you think about creation?
Yeah.
Well,
What is creating to you?
I actually think that it's very important to be an innovator and a creator, because that actually helps to fuel your purpose. So even if we are workers in some instances, it is important that we tap into our gifts and our talents and utilize those things while we're here. So I think that this generation has more of a chance to do that than the generations of times past, because we are now in essence having this podcast even. We're allowing ourselves to be open to doing things from a different place that we weren't in.
No, really. I mean, this podcast came out of the pandemic disruption. So before this Zoom class that we have, right now there's 50 people on this in the high school level, but this class used to be face to face, in person, right? And now it's become a Zoom class. And through my own creative innovation, right, I've added the podcast to it because that's something that's passionate to me. And also, real quick, we got our team, Javier and Raphael, I mean, y'all met Raphael before. I think you met Javier too, right? So they're our production crew. I just want to give them a shout out also, right? But yeah, this new innovation, right? Being able to be here in the academy, interacting not only with the 50 students, but we're also Facebook Live, right? So we're interacting with our Facebook community, and this knowledge, right? So this whole knowledge that we're sharing here at the academy is being shared. This 21st century, this new experience. You grew up in Buffalo?
I did.
Okay.
So I grew up in the inner city, which is the east side. Of course, the west side is part of the inner city as well, but a lot of people refer to the east side a lot. So there's a lot of challenges, as we know, growing up in the inner city. I grew up where there was a presence of gang violence based off of the different neighborhoods you lived in was what gang ruled that neighborhood. And we knew not to cross over into lines of other neighborhoods, even as a female, because somebody would come after you, right? So I basically was the type of person that minded my own business. I decided to get a job and participate in different activities that the school was offering, sports, arts, as Jasmine mentioned, like I did theater. I even went to the chorus practice a couple of times to see if I wanted to try that out, but I channeled my energy into finding different outlets. And I also did different things in the community, like I went to the YMCA, I played basketball.
Can you still play?
I'm alright. I was a part of a drill team, which I performed in the drill Ramos back then. That was a big thing. So I just poured myself into being a part of the community in order to keep myself away from the different things in life that was going on, even within my own family, at times that could have pulled me down. So, to answer that question, that's pretty much how it started out.
And you grew up in Buffalo too?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I think, like, from what I understand, you grew up in Buffalo and made your way to California. You're a performer. You're on the TV screen or something, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I started in Buffalo. I went to Atlanta a few times, and then I ended up going to.
Hold on a second, please.
Yeah.
They say they can't see us on this one, Javier.
No, I can see never mind.
Oh, okay. You see it? Okay, thanks, Destiny. All right, sorry.
Yeah, I went to Atlanta a few times, checked out the scene out there, see how it was, be like independent and stuff. And then after that, I was like, I want to go to New York. Because it's like, I felt like I was like a little shit. I don't know, I just felt like Buffalo couldn't serve me the way that, other places could. So I went to New York City, New Jersey first, then to New York, and then I made my way to Cali. But it's like through all those experiences, it was just about me having like a goal in mind and being like, hey, like I really want it. So it's all about like finding what every day can like fuel you, can like make you happy. Like can make you go to work at 7 a.m., get off at 4, walk down the street, work at 4:15 and get off at 2 a.m. and then do it all over again because it means something to you, you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Okay, willing to sacrifice. Would you say that you have, like, why do we need to be willing to sacrifice? I mean, so there again, a lot of these young folks, they're 17, 18 years old, right? But you ladies are saying, well, I know you're saying, but would you say you had to sacrifice too?
Oh, I definitely had to sacrifice because instead of doing, there were certain things that I wanted to do when I was in middle school that I couldn't even do, like when I mentioned basketball and things of that nature. But I had to choose that when I was old enough to get a job. So in that way that I could get the things I wanted because my mom couldn't take care of those things for me. So I had to sacrifice the being just a free-flowing child and being able to just have fun with friends and be a part of certain things the way, my friends used to hang out after school and do other things after sports. I couldn't participate because I had to sacrifice by having a job. So so that was my sacrifice, is choosing to actually work.
So that seems like that, in this system, right? I think I've heard that enough times, right? People say, grow up and get real, right? And getting real is, look, we gotta put food on the table. We gotta make some money, right? And so again, that's the economic system that we receive, right? But I think like the language that we're talking about here, right, is that, you know, and these also what I was sharing with my class, right, is that wouldn't it be wonderful that you could make money, you know, for following your dreams, right? Because it's a lot of what I hear.
As well.
Excuse me?
It's like support as well, because like my mom, she wasn't the type of person who was like, oh, you have to pay me rent, you have to like help with this. I actually had to like convince her to allow me to get a job at 14.
Okay.
Like, and she like always like pushed me to go after.
Yeah, why did you want a job at 14?
I don't know, cause I wanted to get out there, man. I was ready.
You were ready.
But, like
okay.
I seen something and I was like, I need it.
Okay. Now remember, class, if you have any questions, you can ask the question. You can put them in the chat, or we'll read the chat too. So any questions for the young ladies there?
But it was an acting job though.
Uh-huh.
That's also why. Yeah, I was peer educated. So I peer educated and I did acting.
Okay, so-
doing that.
So peer educator, acting, right? But it was still a job, and then you know we heard that acronym of job is the JOB, just over broke.
But see, but then it's also too going after jobs that are going to feed you. Any job that I did was something that would help me, whether it be with networking, learning about like the restaurant industry, or learning about the theater, or you know, like if I
Well,
wanna
no,
be
but you're
in
using the
education,
word
I'd be
learning
in
though,
education, you know?
right? So like part of the conversation that we've had in class, right? Some people say, look, Doc, we don't have time to make that decision about learning. It's like we need to put food on the table.
But naturally, you're learning every day. Even if you cross the street and the car is speeding, you're like, you learn to kind of like be like, hey, maybe I should wait till the light turns red.
Okay.
You know,
So maybe the learning connected
raising awareness.
for yourself.
Yes,
Okay.
let's say that more so.
Yeah.
Raising awareness.
Yeah, I mean, but if you go get a job at McDonald's, right? I mean, I see Raphael's over there, right? But can you like just name that experience, right? Like,
Yeah.
So you're at
Well,
McDonald's.
that's my case, actually.
That's your case?
Yeah, I work at
Okay.
McDonald's too.
Yeah. I was at Burger King.
Okay.
But my mom was the exact opposite of Jasmine's, where it was like, a job is a job and you need to take one.
Mm.
Like, I was actually very artsy as well, and I wanted to do fashion design, so I wanted to work at a clothing store. Because in my mind, I was all about the clothes. I was best dressed in high school, so I was like, if I work at a clothing store, then like as she mentioned, it can fuel my need to be able to be a designer later, because I'm always around these beautiful clothes. But my mom, her mindset was that of the poor, as Doc mentioned. And the mindset of the poor was like, look, we need to, like you said, put food on the table. You know, you need to get a job and learn how to pay a bill. So I had to pick which bill I wanted, and I picked the light bill. Not knowing that the light bill was
This is the most
the most
expensive.
expensive bill. And she didn't let me detract from that. So now I have the light bill, and now I'm trying to balance, you know, how to have fun with my friends and spend my money on things I want. And it wasn't quite going the way I expected, but yeah, to speak to that, I ended up having to take the job that I didn't want. However, I learned from it though, because as she mentioned, life is about experiences. So I learned a very good work ethic working at Burger King, because eventually the skills that I learned were management type skills that I was able to use in my life later on.
So let me ask anybody in the class, right? Have you had to make that choice of just, look, you know, working for a dream or in your passion area, like whether it's clothing or whether it's acting, or like, no, I just need to get straight up and make some money?
But you can have passion shoveling too.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Like,
Right.
mhm.
Any comments on that?
I loved it.
Yeah, mine would just get money.
So you were in a situation where you had to go straight up about money?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about in the future? Do you think that like if we continue to maintain like this idea that we have to work for money, right?
Yeah, it's perspective.
It's perspective. So what do you mean by perspective?
Because it's like, even when, like, say, like, when I moved to, like out of town, right, to, like, New Jersey or New York or LA, it's expensive there, right? I don't know how I'm gonna pay my bills. Most of the times I moved, I may have had, like, some money saved up. I just kind of went on a whim. And I had to look up jobs, but like when I looked up jobs, I still looked up jobs that I would enjoy, you know?
So how do you transit? So you had a few jobs?
I've had tons of jobs. I'm
So
the person you
what-
don't want to hire.
Zamar, you got something to say? Zamar? You had tons of jobs? So how did you switch? Because now I know both of you as entrepreneurs. What switched? I mean, I guess you still, like even for me, right? I got my day job. I'm holding on to my day job, right? But at the same time, you know, I'm pursuing a entrepreneurial experience because one, I'm pursuing that experience because for myself, but when I look at my community, right, and looking at their future, right, it just seems to me that if any of these young men and women in this class are going to do better, right, than maybe their parents or the generation before them, is that just going for a job looking for money, right, whether it's minimum wage or whatever, or living wage, that's not going to be enough, right?
That's material, that's earthly things.
Those are earthly things?
Like, okay, so talking from a spiritual point of
Go
perspective,
ahead.
right? It's like you have to separate from all of this like noise that is on the outside of you that tells you what to, how to, when to, why to, whatever. And you have to allow yourself balance in order to understand like what really speaks true to yourself, you know? Like so that you can like be authentic, because in every moment that I allowed myself to be authentic, I naturally attracted what I needed, whether it be just walking into some place or, you know, because I put myself in the spaces needed. If I wasn't getting something, it's because I wasn't in a space to receive it.
Okay.
So it's like, you
So-
know, what
so-
you really want, you gotta find it.
So what Ms. Ramos is suggesting is that when you're out there looking for finance or looking for income or looking for money, that it's not just the like for her, it's not just a material pursuit, right? But it's also a spiritual pursuit. Do any of you in the class have a feeling about that? Should you be looking for jobs just for material pursuit, or should it be in some kind of spiritual harmony with regard to who you are? Anybody?
It depends.
It depends on what?
Cause like, how about if one job is like more money and like you want that job because it's like more finance, but then you don't like that job or what you're doing. But then you like a whole different job that, oh, this is you, like this is everything that you want to do, but it's paying way less than the other job. And you usually want to get confused because then you gonna end up wanting to go to the one that pays higher.
Okay. For the money reason. So Ms. Gibbs is biting at the bit. She really wants to speak on this. Please do. Thank you, Israel.
That was really good because that is my life actually. So I'm a substitute teacher, and a lot of kids, you know, you guys look at substitutes different from your typical teacher because in your mind, your teacher knows everything. However, a lot of substitute teachers are retired teachers or business professionals or people that are in the process of getting their teaching degree. So myself, I actually have multiple degrees. I have my master's, I ran my own business, I worked in corporate America, but I chose to be a substitute teacher as my way to give back to the community because I love children. But also, substitute teaching does not pay as much as being a teacher or being a principal or anything else of that nature. So then, sometimes people are challenging me because I look so young, and they think to themselves like, oh, you must just be getting out of school, and you know, when are you getting your teaching certification? I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that because I like being a substitute teacher. So actually, I've been in a sales background for about 10 years. I've sold cars, insurance, worked at a bank. So having that background has fueled me the energy to be able to make more money, right? But it's a very stressful background. And so I decided to take time off and go into the subbing more on a full-time basis because it was about me being able to be at peace spiritually, as Jasmine mentioned, And so although I might not make as much money as I wanted to make per se, I actually enjoy what I do. I like the flexibility of subbing. And because I enjoy what I do, God always supplies. Like I just came back from Disney. I had a great vacation. I went on I've been on probably 4 vacations in the last 4 months. So a vacation a month. There's not many people that can do that and still have money in the bank and they're working a job. So to answer your question, sometimes you really have to waver because a part of me says, oh, well, look at that job. I can earn blank right now. But is that in line with what I have in my heart? And is that in line with what I feel like I'm destined to do? If that was the case, I wouldn't even be here today. I would be at my 9-to-5 job. So I'm here today talking to you guys because I allowed myself to say, okay, well, what does God want? And, and can I still make it being happy in this position? And so far that answer is yes, even though I will make more money in the future because I can't help but to navigate around and do other things that bring more income. But right now, it's about allowing myself to be there for my community.
So it made me think, God helps those who help themselves, right? Isn't that thing?
But sometimes the money might be what you want.
Yeah.
Right. That's
So
what
if you're
I
going
that.
to go to that job and if you're going to make that money, find a reason to enjoy that job and be like, yeah, I'm getting this money and I'm working towards this. Don't just go there and complain.
Did they say money is the root of all evil?
I mean, it can be, but does it have to be?
Yeah.
Like, what is evil? What does what?
Well, actually, I mean, I was
You know?
in my class, we play on that because I think the biblical reference is not that money is the root of all
The
evil,
love
right?
of it.
The love of money,
Right.
right?
The attachment of.
Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, I think that I mean, we can move on to this, right? But we are in one of the richest countries in the world, right? From me, my perspective, it doesn't really make sense to be poor in the richest country in the world.
You can't be lazy though. That's
exactly,
one thing.
right.
If you're gonna be lazy, don't expect to be making no money. You're not gonna make anything.
Yeah.
Like.
No, I watch how my team right here, how all of y'all be hustling, right? And I appreciate that, right? But I agree, you can't be lazy. But what about the relationship, like a 1 hour of labor in relationship to a 1 hour of income? So like a job is a 1-to-1 relationship. You put in an hour, you get $15 an hour. But like when you build your company, right, that 1 hour labor could become very lucrative because now you're building an asset in your asset column. And I think that, like Jasmine, we're talking about, we're starting that cooperative, that real estate cooperative, right, generating assets. But do you want to speak on assets, right? I know my students had, I know you were preparing something. Was it about the compounding interest?
Yes.
So my students are kind of familiar with that. We talked about that last night, or in class yesterday. What do you want to say about compounding returns?
So basically, I wanted to speak to the aspect of, so I gave a little bit about my background, right? I worked at Burger King. I was in the Marine Corps, right? And now you guys know I've had multiple sales positions. So all those things are great, but it's not great if you don't put money away. So my thing is, I can have all the titles in the world, but it's not just about having money to have things. Money is a form of survival. Money is a resource. So I didn't really understand the power of money when I was younger. I just, I was poor, right? I had the poor spending habits first when I worked at Burger King. I didn't put a dime away until I got ready to leave to the Marine Corps, and I had $200 saved, and I thought that was enough. And then I blew that eventually, and when I went into the Marines, $1,000 every 2 weeks, oh, that's a lot of money now. So I'm blowing that money, buying all these things that I wanted. And so, as your instructor mentioned, that was a spending habit of the poor because that money went straight out on expenses, right? And so, but because I grew up in a state of lack, I was fueling my desire for things. So I spent my money on things. And then as I started earning more income, I started pouring my money into liabilities, right? Cars and, other little gadgets and things of that nature. And then I got to the point that I am today. So even though I make less money today, I have assets. I have savings and investments and things of that nature. So what I wanted to bring out, I know your instructor talked about compounding interest, and he talked about the section where if you put the $2,000 away in 8 years, the person who started early, so we'll say Mrs. Start Early as an example, they would have earned $25,000 in 8 years for putting that $2,000 away. And then the person like myself, in that 8 years, I had nothing, right? So nothing from nothing is nothing, right? So I had a point in my life where even though I had all these great backgrounds, I lost everything. I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost my job, I lost everything, right? So now I'm back to a place of lack, right? So if I had put something away, the $10 that my grandma told me about, I would have had more money in the bank to do some of the things that I wanted to do later on. But because I had nothing, I had to, be in a state of lack for a while. And then finally decide, well, I need to start saving, because it doesn't matter what kind of job, business, or income you have coming in. It's important to put some away in order to have money when you need it. So, in the example, Mr. Start Late, and I'm Mrs. Start Late. So if you started at the 9-year mark, within 16 years, that person had they had 25,000. Now the person who started first, they had 53,000, but they stopped saving. They just let that money sit there because now they have an asset working for them. They're not working for the money. The money is now working for them. So I'm saying all that to say that you guys are young. And I'm not saying it just because I learned these classes when I was in my teens. I was 19, 20, in the Marine Corps. I had these financial classes. Everybody said, put away, put away. As I told you guys, I did not. I did not listen. But now I have a teenager. He's 16 years old, and he has $10,000 because I taught him to put away. And I taught him that, you can spend, you can buy things you want, but I want you to go out there and be creative. I did not allow him to get a job initially because I knew he had other gifts, and I wanted him to understand the power of being able to save and then being able to utilize your gifts. And then now I want him to go and work a job so he can understand other aspects, the structure, and just like the freedom of not working versus working for someone. So yeah, I can say that if you do put away, that you will have a better start. So that's the point I wanted to put out, because I actually have a child that is doing it.
So real quick, so what I noticed, right, and I think like me growing up in a working class household, right, I heard people talk about savings, but I'm like you, I didn't save. Even with my PhD in economics, right, I wasn't saving, right. I am typical, right. I had, when I was a graduate, I had my first job around 13 also, right. But generally, right, I would save money, but I would spend it for Christmas or something along those lines, or maybe on gifts or what have you, right. But my general habit was money coming in and money going out. And then when I got my first good job, then I was like, I was driving a hoopty, and then I gave up the hoopty, right? I was able to get a car. Now I got a car note, right? Then I got to pay a rent for a more expensive apartment. Now I'm going out to eat a lot more, right? And that was the financial habits of the middle income class. And but then, I think for myself, what I learned, right, or what I found was that right around 2000, when the stock market crashed, right? I saw my forced retirement, because I didn't put any money into retirement, right? But Buffalo State and the state forced me to do the retirement, right? And I saw my retirement go up, and I saw it go down, and all without my own effort, right? And all of those things together, and then looking at my students who were having a difficult time getting into the, I had a lot of young black males who would come into my life studying economics with me. But then when they went out into the work world, there was barriers industry, in the work world, and a lot of them were very entrepreneurial, right? And so it was at that time period that I started, and then I read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad Poor Dad. Right? I read that, and honestly, even with my PhD in economics, reading Rich Dad Poor Dad changed my life completely. What do you think? Let me throw it to you. I'm throwing the ball to you.
My savings habits. I got tired of watching my mom write down numbers. Love you, Mom. And subtract and ask me to add them up and be her calculator. I mean, I'm really great at math, but I mean, sheesh, man. So it's like when I moved, I don't know. I just wanted to make sure that I was good. I didn't want to have to like worry about anything.
Okay, so how about anybody out there? Any comments with regards to spending money in the present or preparing for the future? Anybody in the class?
Yes.
Okay, Gerard, what you got to say?
So, it's like, when you get, say you get your first paycheck, and you plan on going to college, you could spend, say if you get like $300, you can just take $100 out and put it in your checking and leave the $200 in your savings, and when you keep getting your paychecks, the money could add up to your checking, and don't spend it all, just spend some of it. So like, it teaches you how to keep your money for a rainy day, and to keep your money to pay bills, and to get the stuff you want and need.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's.
And I definitely agree with that. Like these days, I've been trying to save at least like 50 to 60% of my checks.
Now,
but it doesn't have to be that. It could just be 10%.
Really ambitious.
You know,
Right.
like you can just do
That's
like
really
10%. Like you can do $10.
well, we had a professor at Buffalo State College. He said it's really ambitious, right? So when I'm looking at I got my class to study the richest man in Babylon. They say that you should be able to live off of 90% of what you earn, right? And not really change your lifestyle. And then we also listened to Earl Nightingale, The Strangest Secret, and one of his ideas, right? He was talking about 100 people at the age of 25 all have these dreams, these goals, these desires and aspirations, but by the age of 65 or 70, like only 5 of them really achieved it specifically in the world of finance, right? And it's like, what was different, right? And part of it was pursuing the dreams, right? But part of it was also the 10%, right? Saving 10% of what you earn. But going back to talk about it was hard, there was a professor at Buffalo State College, right, who did save 50% of his income. He lived off of 50%. And he passed away probably in the early 2000s. He left millions of dollars to Buffalo State College. And he,
Depends on what you want.
that's what
Right. It does. It depends. And I feel like something is better than nothing. So as Jasmine said, sometimes it may be 10. Sometimes in this student's comment, they basically saved a third. My business partner says that students should save 50% because you guys don't have the same responsibilities as adults. But however, every household is set up different. So, but to start some type of saving habit, that's the key. The habit, so like this other student just shared, once you put that habit in effect, you will have the money for when something comes up that you don't like. Because the things you don't like will happen. Like I have to take my truck to the shop. That's not fun vacation money. I don't want to go spend more money getting my truck fixed, but it's something that I have to do. It is bound to happen. So all of our money is not used just for fun. So we have to I feel that, like he said, in order to have the habit of the rich, you create those habits now. And it doesn't mean like rich like you're going to be filthy rich and you necessarily are going to live in a mansion or live in a big home. Rich is something that's in the soul, but to create a habit of where you're not in a perpetual state of lack is what I'm referring to. Because to me, the size of a house doesn't matter anymore. I would love to have a big glass house, at least part of it, but I also wouldn't care if I'm just able to walk down the street to the park and just have money in my pocket to be able to survive and do the things that I enjoy doing with people I love in nature. So it just, It depends on the person, but like I said, something's better than nothing.
Let me ask you this, or either one of you, right? I think that, like, from my own experience with people that I teach, right, there's a lot of people who are afraid to be rich, right? They feel that rich is not their lifestyle, right? It's not, they don't deserve to be rich, right? What do you think about that?
I think some people can't handle having certain power.
Power. So you saying that rich is associated with power, or?
I believe so.
Yeah. And then probably the way we've gotten our negative perception of rich and power is that some of those rich people have been really some mean SOBs, right? Right. But in our world, like for example, in here at the academy, we talk about building 7 generations into the future, starting with our own, right? So part of our mission is not just us, right? But we want to share the wealth, right? Again, we feel that it's not noble to be poor. I don't think, right? Unless that's your choice, right? Mother Teresa, that was your choice, right? And a lot of people say, I don't want to play the money game, right? But whether you think you're not playing the money game, you're still playing the money game. If you buy food at the supermarket, if you're paying taxes or what have you, you're still paying the money game. All right, Tamara, you got something? Anybody want to speak on this real quick? Okay. All right. So we're going to close up right here. Any parting words? All right. Anybody in the class? Any questions for the ladies on the podcast panel here? What you want to share with them?
Yeah, what do you want to share with us?
Come on. Let me hear somebody talk.
Right.
Let me hear somebody talk before we get off of here. Come on now.
Can you repeat your question?
Well, we're about to finish up, and so my question is, do any of you have any questions for the panelists here?
I want to share anything.
Or share anything, or share one of your stories. Do you want to speak, Adelante? What?
It's internet. I don't really have a story.
Okay.
I just thank her for coming and talking to us about.
Okay. Well, you get a thank you. Both of you get a thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys for participating. I hope that you've taken something out of it, no matter what it is that you've taken something that fuels you to achieve whatever goals that you set your mind to.
Perspective is key. Find what makes you happy. Be true to yourself, even if you gotta rebel.
Okay, you gotta remember. All right. And me being the professor, I just want to say one thing about the savings, right? Is that, you start with savings, but you can't stay there, right? Because the truth is savings, some people say savers are losers, right? And not that they're losers, right? But if you save, right? If you save $100, right? And the inflation rate is 10%, and the return on your savings is only 3%, you lost 7%. But generating the habit of savings, what else is on the asset column? You got savings, you convert those savings into stocks, you can convert them into bonds, you can convert them into dividends, you can convert them into businesses, income, property. And again, what we're working with right here at the academy is you could convert them into cooperative businesses. So, all right. So again, all of you out there in the Facebook world, thank you for tuning in. My middle, early college, high school students, thank you for tuning in. Ms. Phelps, I will pass on the assignment for the class for Wednesday's asynchronistic class, and we'll get together on Thursday. I think we're out of here. Right? Peace.
Bye.